Hey everyone, Dan the Cardman back again and welcome to another video. So first off, I want to wish you all a happy new year. It's currently the 1st of Jan here in Australia. New Year's Eve was last night. A bit hungover this morning, but I really wanted to get this video out. So I was scrolling through Facebook and I saw that basically Tyler from HGA put an update on one of the HGA Facebook groups. So I quickly jumped to the screenshots of this because I just didn't want to be on my Facebook showing it on camera. But basically, there's some really interesting insights and some good news, I think, for HGA long-term as fans like myself and others, even though I've made some videos about them in the last couple of weeks around some of the issues. I still want them to succeed. And I think there's some interesting points here that if they do go down the path of success with these points, like they do see them through, I think HGA are probably going to position themselves to be sort of in a stronger position than what they are now, which is really interesting. So Tyler basically gave a high-level overview of basically where the process currently stands. The reason why it takes so long to process cards is because of the high-res scans that they're doing and that the AI has to process. So he thinks it takes them 6 times longer than some of their leading competitors. I'm not sure how he quantified that, but that's pretty interesting. And it's because obviously they've got to scan the image, process them, and then review them. So that's quite a large thing, as well as doing the custom labels, which is to be expected. But he's talking about having these highlighted and looking to improve, which is interesting. Now, the really interesting part of his post was this first point here, where he talks about they've got a new investor that has apparently been around for 110 years. They have factories in 10 countries. I'm really curious to see who they are. But basically, this person has come in, has helped them, obviously financially, but then also help them streamline the process significantly. So if you go back to some of my videos, I talk about how these issues were coming to light because they've obviously got a poor control environment. And when I say control environment, I mean the things that they have in place to make sure things get done, the process gets run smoothly, reviews, so on and so forth. They were obviously not working effectively. So what this person has done, or this group has done, is they've come in, they've probably identified these things because they've obviously done a top to bottom review. And they've streamlined a lot of that, revamped most of the process, which I think Tyler mentions here. So yeah, helping us to streamline and increase efficiencies. He also talks about layoffs, and there's been lots of talk about layoffs on social media from these guys in the last couple of weeks. People like bagging them, so on and so forth. But this is probably why most of them have happened, because if you've got 20 people involved in a process, for example, and you can automate most of that, which is what maybe this investor has come in and seen, then maybe you don't need 20 people anymore. You only need 5, which sucks, but it's part of the growing pains associated with being a new business, right? It's not unsurprising. He also talks about here, like revamping lots of the process, which is really interesting. And then he goes into layoffs down the bottom. He still talks about how they still have over 100 employees, which is really nice to see. They expect to do a big chunk towards the end of Jan with relation to their backlog. Which is a bit disappointing they got into that, but given that they were impacted heavily by COVID and have had a lot of staff laid off, quit, blah, 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 I think that's fair. So those are really interesting points. And I think the first one is probably going to highlight or indicate that HGA is going to be in a good position moving forward, I think, anyway. If they can meet this and they can stick to this, I think it's good for the hobby to have HGA be successful. So we want them to be successful, right? The next point they talk about is, and this is a big one as well, they're going to review their submission levels. And I know at the start, they came out and said they're never going to pause submit like grades like BGS and PSA have done. It's just funny now that they're coming out and saying they need to do the same thing to basically keep up with the demand or keep up with their backlog. Now, I think they're going to pause everything except for 60-day turnarounds. And then also they're going to announce new tiers. So I'm not sure what they're going to be. I just imagine they'd be a bit more staggered in terms of number of days than what they currently have. And then maybe they'll pause on like the super express ones for the time being and just till they get comfortable and then kick on, which I think is really good, right? Because I think some of the gripes like I've had with them and others potentially has been around not so much them doing what they're doing. It's that we felt like they were taking on too much in one go, just because they should just be focusing on what they can control, focus on getting that done 100% right, and then move on once you've got that foundation. They sort of ran before they could walk, almost to an extent, but it's good that they've identified these things now. Tyler's come out and said, actually, no, this is what's happening. Let's just monitor it and then go from there. And that's really good to see, because like I said previously, when management like I work in external audit. So when I go to management of these big companies and I say to them, listen, we've identified these issues, they come back and say, great, let's fix them. Or they'll come back and say, no, your errors, they're not real errors, sort of thing. And the ones that do that are less likely to succeed long term, right? And which seems pretty obvious, but you sort of get a good indication of how management's going to respond and how they're going to react and how they're going to like manage a company moving forward based on their response to you identifying issues. And I think that Tyler's got this detailed list of things they're wanting to work on, wanting to improve. This indicates to me that they're, like I said a bit earlier, keen and have a long-term vision in mind, that they want to make sure everything is sustainable, controllable, and they can be here, like I said, long-term. So that's really interesting. You've probably already read the next point. They're talking about custom labels. So it looks like they're probably going to hold back on those and maybe not make it as custom, which I think is a good thing, because I think he talks about here somewhere that when they first announced them, they got 10,000 requests in the first 10 days, which is crazy. And that's 10,000 unique designs, which you can understand it becomes incredibly overwhelming to maintain that. And that's probably where most of the time was being spent. So he talks about it's not a 3-minute job. So what he's talking about here is that they're going to have a larger list of custom labels. So I'm not sure how big that list is going to be. Maybe it's like 100 labels to choose from. And then you pick the one you want, which I think is good, get that controllable. And then eventually down the line, they're going to allow one-of-one labels, like custom labels like they have now, which is fine. They'll probably charge a larger fee, which again is also fine, because it is extremely difficult to have an artist sit there all day and design 10,000 labels, right? It's just far too time consuming, and they're wasting their time doing that. So I think if they have a large volume of custom labels to choose from, that's a good indicator for them moving forward as well. Now, the last point, very quickly, video's going a bit longer than I wanted it to, but that's fine. They're talking about Horizontal Labs, confirming that they'll be here on January 10th. So if you recall, they did a post on this maybe 6 months ago, maybe a little bit less, about the fact that the slabs were coming. Horizontal slabs would be sick, because for some cards, you'd rather have it horizontal, right, rather than be vertical. So I think it's a big game changer. So like I was saying, you probably saw a few months ago where they did announce and they showed a photo. And what Tyler mentions here, actually, is somebody took that photo and patented it and then tried to sue HGA for using it, which is freaking crazy, right? Just shows that there's some like really asshole people out there, right? Like, what a shit thing to do. But he talks about how luckily they were in the process of changing the slab anyway, which is why the delay took so long, because they weren't happy with how it looked and how it worked. So really interesting to see what these slabs actually look like on January 10th, because I think they're going to be a big game changer for them. So it's pretty interesting. And he talks about how they got a backlog, blah, blah, blah. So go to the HGA page, read this, check it out for yourself, give them a like, give them a follow. But in summary, it's pretty interesting. So obviously they've streamlined the process now, which is it's really, really good for them as a company. I think it highlights to me, like I said, that some good things are going to happen around them if they can stick to it. They've got those streamlines, and they've like obviously let go of more stuff. He clarified around that. And then the big one being custom labels being revamped, probably potentially being removed, how it is now. You're just going to have a large volume to choose from. And then also they're going to pause submission levels, which is a bit annoying given that they've had to do that, like I said, and they mentioned previously that they wouldn't, but it is what it is. I think in aggregate, these 5 points are really, really good. They indicate to me that we're going to see some nice things potentially from HGA in 2022. So I hope that is the case. I hope they don't drop the ball and fall away like they did towards the back end of this year. But these things, like I said, probably put them in a good position to do a lot of good things in 2022. So fingers crossed for the hobby that goes ahead, because we need more competitors. We need more people to disrupt the stranglehold that PSA and HGA, BGS have, right? So yeah, that's sort of it. I hope you enjoyed the video. If you're in the States now and you're about to go into the new year, Happy New Year. Everyone else in the world, Happy New Year. We'll see you in 2022. Cheers.